The man was beaten to the ground. They intended to steal money, but found nothing valuable in his luggage. They were frustrated. The three thugs vented their anger. They violently struck his head again. This act changed his life forever. He woke up with amnesia. Security noticed something was wrong, but found him unconscious in the restroom. They called for help quickly. He was taken to the hospital. Despite efforts, his heart stopped soon after. Doctors declared him dead. However, after everyone left, he miraculously revived. He realigned his dislocated nose himself. Then he quietly left. His name was Kadi. The next day, he was by the seaside. A homeless person thought he was dead and took his big leather boots for canvas shoes. Two passing boys soon found him. They took him to their parents and brought Kadi home. Seeing his injuries, the mother cooked porridge and fed him carefully. The boy was envious due to their poverty. A family of 4 barely survived in an old container. Their only income was the father's factory job. Still, they wanted Kadi to leave after he recovered. Under their care, Kadi's injuries healed. His first words were about, but he couldn't remember anything before. Not even his name clearly. The next day, seeing his father return, the children stopped their games. They prepared hot water for their hardworking father. Afterward, he wore a suit which didn't fit their poor environment. He leaned against the container not to drive Kadi away, but to take him out for a meal. But this outside was just a welfare office, Friday's free meal and a free choir. Unexpectedly, a female staff was attracted to him, and Kadi felt the same. After eating, they went to a tavern. Old Me got paid today and planned to have drinks with Kadi. Maybe alcohol could help his memory. But after 8 beers, his meager salary was almost gone. But Kadi still couldn't remember. Fortunately, they found a clue. He noticed Kadi's rough palms indicating physical labor to help him recover faster on the way home. Old Me had a strange idea, but Kadi wasn't interested in the past. He wanted to settle here. So he rented a container by the sea. Rent was 100 yen per week. The security officer threatened to send a wild dog if he didn't pay on time. This man without a past finally had a place to stay. He connected the power, cleaned up, and got a bed, refrigerator, and a record player. He even grew some vegetables. A simple home gradually took shape. By Friday, Kadi still went to the welfare office. He complained the soup was salty and lacked vegetables. He asked the woman's name, but she didn't answer. Instead, she gave him a business card. It was the welfare office address. You can get new clothes here. From then on, Kadi focused on his appearance. He took off his shirt and found Old Me, wanted to wash his smelly clothes, but he had no money. Couldn't buy a washing machine, but Old Me introduced him to a neighbor. Kadi remembered the woman's words. Learning to live? First, he needed a job. Kadi lifted the garbage can lid. A person sprang out unexpectedly. His life was even poorer, but he was the go-to person here. Kadi got a job at the employment center. He thought his life would change, but to get a job, he needed to fill out his info. However, Kadi couldn't remember his name. They thought he was causing trouble, so they called the manager. Kadi was kicked out. He went to a restaurant, asked for free water, took a small box from his pocket, but inside was soaked tea leaves. Kadi was pitiful. The owner and cook exchanged glances, made a meal for him, said it was breakfast leftovers, and offered milk. No matter where, there are good people. With the woman's card, Kadi found the welfare office. There were many donated clothes. The woman picked one for him. Kadi changed his appearance and learned the woman's name. Through simple communication, Emma learned about Kadi's situation. She hoped the leader would help him. Thus, Kadi became a grocery porter. But after work, he returned home. That evening, the officer came with a wild dog. Kadi said he'd pay rent in a few days. But the officer didn't care. Though the dog didn't react much, the officer still wanted Kadi to leave. Seeing Kadi was indifferent, the officer grabbed him and pushed him against the wall, threatened he'd be gone for a week, and the dog would stay. "You worry about delaying our This is ours, I'm not here to scold you. Actually, it was lucky for Kati. At least he had company. Charities differ from private businesses. Like others, they couldn't pay the same salaries. After a few days, Kati earned 800 wen. However, he didn't go home. Instead, he swept fallen leaves, but he was waiting for Emma to finish work. Kati said the road was unsafe and wanted to send him home, but unexpectedly, Emma outright refused his kindness. Although Kati had amnesia, but his flirting was good. Thus, they quickly arrived at Emma's place. Kati didn't intend to leave, but reminded Emma something was in her eyes. Emma didn't feel uncomfortable, but Kati insisted on seeing. A week passed. Kati brought the dog to Xi'an City. He paid 1 month's rent. The man wanted to exchange the dog, but things didn't go smoothly. Kati wanted to borrow his car for one night, but the officer only cared about money, 20 wen an hour. Gasoline costs extra. Kati paid a 50 wen deposit. He also took the dog away. That day, Emma did her makeup, and Kati prepared a lavish meal. Under dim lights, they faced each other without saying anything. They hurriedly ate peas, and those two steaks. Kati opened the record player to drive out the dog, closed the door, and sat on the sofa. This moment was just theirs. Kati found life's meaning. Vegetables grew taller daily. That day, he changed into the band's uniform and brought the choir to his container, hoping the choir, who usually sang lyrically, could learn rock music. They thought it was good. So Kati approached the leader the next day and proposed changing the choir's style. Unexpectedly, the leader agreed, and the next Friday, he became the lead singer. As singing started, people's sorrows dissipated, embracing long-missed ease and comfort. Intoxicated, dancing gracefully, people didn't disperse. They played all night without stopping. The officer listened attentively nearby. When he saw Kati approaching, he prepared to ask for a fee, but didn't expect this was Kati's masterpiece. That day, while Kati was working, he looked up and saw a flash. He boldly walked over to try, but unexpectedly, after approval, his welding skill earned the boss's recognition, and the job had a higher salary. So Kati came to the office on Monday as agreed. Even better, the manager said Kati's identity wasn't a problem. He could take any name, nationality could be filled as desired, just need to pass the social investigation. Next, open a digital bank account. However, here, he encountered a problem. A gunman suddenly appeared. He shot the camera and demanded all money from the frozen account. Both panicked immediately. For safety, the clerk took him to the safe and gave him exactly 247,000 yuan. The man left with the money, but locked Kati and the clerk inside. It was soundproof and had no signal. To rescue, the clerk removed her high heels and directly broke the fire pipe. Police and civilians thought. The two were taken into the orange. Gui Yuan left safely after a good confession, but Kati was detained for lack of ID. He was held. Investigations couldn't rule out accomplices. Luckily, he could make phone calls. After Emma learned of Kati's situation, she quickly found a lawyer for the police station. Though under the lawyer's lengthy terms, Kati was finally released, but his photo was posted on the street. His photo was posted on the street. Kati went to the tavern to relieve boredom. The criminal approached. He said he's been following Kati since he came out, partly to apologize and partly to ask a favor. The man was an entrepreneur, but after buying 2 new machines, the bank recalled the loan for untrustworthiness. They took back the loan. They bought his machines at low prices and sold them at triple prices. His bank account was also frozen, so he couldn't pay workers' wages. All workers became unemployed. He was also in debt. Thus, the bank scene was unavoidable. He just wanted to pay wages. The man's eyes were slightly moist. He is now a wanted criminal. I can only ask Kati to send this money. They arrived at the man's home. He had placed the money in several envelopes, each labeled with an employee's name and their addresses. After getting paid, Kati agreed. But as he left the house, a man working hard for a living was mercilessly erased by society. Kati could have kept the money, but he kept his promise, delivering each portion correctly. The yard vegetables had ripened. That day, the police showed up. They confirmed Kati's identity and that he worked as a welder by posting his photo. They contacted his wife. The police stated his wife's name and asked Kati if he remembered anything, but he couldn't remember. What puzzled the police was Kati had been missing so long, yet his wife never filed a report. This left Kati deep in thought. uncertain if he resented his wife or didn't want to face his past life. Upon hearing the news, Emma rushed over, though she didn't want to leave the man she fell for. She took the dog and escorted Caddy to the station. Thus, Caddy boarded the train home. Back at home, though the door was open, he still rang the doorbell. Then his wife came out. The long-separated couple reunited, but his wife showed no joy. Turns out Caddy loved gambling. He had squandered all their savings. They often quarreled and had divorced long ago. Later, Caddy went south to work. It was outside that station he was beaten. His wife's new husband came over. He wanted to fight Caddy, but given the circumstances, Caddy understood leaving was the best choice. After a deep embrace with his ex-wife, he returned to that poor place. Right ahead, he saw the three thugs from before. Seeing that Caddy was alive, they drew knives to finish him. But this time, Caddy picked up a wooden board. Outnumbered 3-1, the thugs were terrified because behind Caddy, more people appeared. They were all local residents, no longer timid, ready to drive away the thugs. Finally, the sheriff arrived with the victim rescued. Caddy arrived at the welfare center during a rock song performance. He took his beloved one away and started a new, beautiful life. Life is just a movie. Even if life is chaotic, you must find joy in hardship. No matter how bad your past was, you can always start anew.